Hey, what's going on? Good to see you guys. It is good to be seen by you guys. How are you doing all this evening? I, of course, am the one, the only, and that's a good thing for you, Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver. Welcome to the show. Welcome to this thing that we do allegedly 5 nights a week. Now, here's the thing. If you're a regular fan of the show or an irregular fan of the show, whether you're a fan of the show or not, tomorrow night, it'll be a rerun tomorrow night. I'll put something up there for you guys, but I will not be streaming tomorrow night. I have been invited over to someone else's stream. I will actually be playing over on Twitch. I will be gaming with Raised on D&D and Rose Estes' son. We will be playing some AD&D, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'll have something for you guys. Don't worry. And someone asked me, hey, could you just stream that on your channel? No, I can't. It's not mine. So, but anyway, before we get too deep into it, of course, I want to remind you guys that tonight's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Hellebarde Games. Hellebarde makes the kind of adventures they'd like to play, whether it's for Castles and Crusades 5th edition or the OSR. Old School is in play at the table with Hellebarde Games, and you can check them out at DriveThruRPG or on their website, hellebardegames.com. And wow, I really want to thank everybody for being here this evening. We are at 4904 on the subscription count. I was blown away. 4904. We are less than 100. We are a mere handful of subscribers away from 5,000, and that just blows my mind. Now, the real high water mark that I'm looking forward to, and it's gonna be months and months before we get there. And that's an interesting use of the plural S to describe thing. And no, there's not an apostrophe there. You see, when things started getting really popular around here, when the folks over at Wizards of the Coast decided to bite the white wax tadpole. God, that was funnier in my head. When they decided to really screw things up vis-a-vis the OGL, and I started reporting on it, and I started reporting role-playing game news in general, my channel experienced this burst of popularity. And between, I would say, January and June, maybe July, things really blew up. I could put out a video and gain a couple of hundred subscribers every video. Folks were tuned into me, and it kind of rocked my world because it was a hot topic subject. I hit the algorithm just right with my video titles. I was doing 3, sometimes 4 videos a day because that's how fast the news was coming from Wizards of the Coast screw up. And so it really it caused a boom in viewership. We went from 1,565 viewers on January 17th to where we're at today, 4,904 subscribers. I said viewers, I meant subscribers, of course. And what that means, I see Tracy in the green room. He'll be joining us in just a minute. What that means is that we haven't quite gotten thousands and thousands of subscriptions. Now, this is where I get real nitpicky. To say you have thousands of something is to imply that you at least have 2,000s. I've said that I've gotten thousands of subscriptions, but it would be inaccurate for me to say I've gotten thousands and thousands of subscriptions. So what I'm looking forward to is over the course of the next few months, because I don't predict Wizards of the Coast is going to do anything. Well, You know, I'm going to stop myself because they have continued to do some pretty stupid stuff. Sending Pinkertons after a Magic the Gathering enthusiast, erasing Jeff Easley's name off of a piece of artwork that he did for them, that sort of thing. So who knows what the future holds? I could drop a spicy video or 2 or 3 next week if something goes really pear-shaped from Wizards of the Coast, and wake up and find that we have 5,565, which would mean that since January 17th, this channel has gotten thousands and thousands of subscribers. As it stands now, it's just thousands. But to say you have thousands and thousands implies that you've gotten at least 4,000. Because 1,000 is 1,000. 2,000 is thousands. So you see where I'm coming from. But anyway, the AI art scandal, that's right, yeah. WotC did a good job of diversifying the market, that's right. But all this frippery aside, tonight's guest is someone whose art is not AI, and at least to date, Wizards of the Coast has not erased it. This guy is a good friend of mine. I love having him on. He has done our merch designs, which I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. So everybody put your hands together and then take them apart and then put them back together, and do that in rapid fashion at least 5 or 6 times, and say hello to tonight's guest, the one, and as far as science is concerned, only TRACY LESCH. Let's welcome him, everybody. TRACY, hello.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right. It's going great. It's the Quisp guy, right?
Yeah, that's Quisp. I used to eat that stuff when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta like the Quisp.
Good health food.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, back then it was loaded with sugar and corn, but at least it wasn't made of corn syrup, you know? Like cereal today is corn syrup, and that's all, which is I think a contributing factor to many bad things. But we can have that discussion. We'll bring Alex Jones on for that discussion one night. I tried to warn him, TRACY. They're putting stuff in the corn syrup. They're mutating the kids. But anyway,
changing the sex of frogs.
You're gonna get me demonetized, TRACY. But anyway, so welcome, man. It's good to see you again, because you and I, we've been so estranged, and I never communicate with you. But first of all, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the amazing merch art. And if there's anyone out there who hasn't seen that, let me know in the comments and I'll share it back. It's actually in the thumbnail, but TRACY's mug is kind of partially covering it up. And there was a bit of a delay. Now I'll tell you guys, I was all ready, like I was digging into Teespring and getting ready to go there. And I said, wait a minute, wait, hold on a second. I need TRACY's name on this. I need TRACY to put his name somewhere on this art. All right. I don't want it just to be like, oh, you went out and you got some art. No. So TRACY put his name there on the piece, and it is glorious. So I'm going to dive in tonight, probably after the show. It may be tomorrow that you guys are will see the merch store open. And TRACY and I've got a little Project X for more merch in the works. Actually, I think this would be Project Y, because TRACY and I are also working on a Project X. But allegedly, but that's dependent on me getting off my butt and getting some writing done. Anyway, now that
I was not going to say a word.
Now that I've completely buried you and forced you to drink from the fire hose, how the hell are you, man?
I'm great. Yeah, everything's pretty good.
Excellent.
Excited about the stuff that we're doing, and we're going to unleash on the world.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Now, look, before I forget, I have to ask you. I gotta just jump right into the deep end of the pool. Not even taking my flip flops and t-shirt off or my sunglasses. Just diving into the deep end of the pool and ask you. You did some art for Eldritch Wizardry back in the day, correct?
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
So, someone posted an artist's work on Twitter the other day, and I pinged you about it because I said I was going to ask you about this. And this is for those of you who don't know, who don't OD&D, Eldritch Wizardry is basically what introduced demons and devils and psionics and black magic into OD&D. And it's right here, supplement 3, Eldritch Wizardry. So my question is, and I'm going to mess this gentleman's name up, and I apologize to you, Tracy, and to everyone listening. But did you work, or did you get to know or speak with Gary Kwapis? KWAPISZ, Gary
Kwapsick.
Kwapsick, okay.
No, I did not know Mr. Kwapsick at all.
Okay. All right, because the reason I asked, that is one of those things that, like, there is this Venn diagram crossover. Like, you can talk to comics fans about Bill Willingham, even setting aside, and I want to ask you about that in just a minute, about the Bill Willingham thing that blew up last week and the week before, because you're an artist, and I know you got deep thoughts on that topic. But like Bill Willingham, if you go out and you talk to comic artists and you say, "Hey, Bill Willingham," they're going to go, "Oh yeah," and they can rattle off all the stuff he did for DC and Marvel and his independent works and his adult erotica and stuff like that. But if you say Bill Willingham, Dungeons and Dragons artist, they're going to say, "Oh, was there a Bill Willingham who did art for D&D too?" It's the same guy. Right. And Gary, I'm just going to say Gary K, because I'm not going to drive the lawnmower back and forth across that poor man's name anymore. But he actually went and did a whole run of Conan the Barbarian comics for Marvel. Like he had one contribution to TSR in Eldritch Wizardry, but then went on to do all this work for Conan. And I didn't know if you knew Gary. And I had mentioned to someone on Twitter, I said, "Hey, Tracy's going to be on the show Thursday. I'll ask him if he knew him." So, answer given.
Are we talking about the picture where there's like a minotaur coming through a doorway?
Yes.
And there's like a halfling or an elf up above?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that piece.
Yeah, it's a nice piece. I mean, generally speaking, all of the OD&D art is fantastic, and I think it deserves way more recognition than it got. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. When I got into OD&D in the early 2000s, a decade and a half before you and I even met, I was like, there's some gorgeous art in here, that everybody thinks, oh, the be all end all is Sutherland, LaForce, Trampier, and surely that's beautiful art. But I mean, you guys set the tempo back in the day. You really did. And I'm gonna put you on the spot, and I know this is probably burned into your neural pathways, but for anyone who's not who has not caught you on the show before, how did you? I love hearing the story. I know it by heart, but tell us how you got started as an artist for TSR.
Oh no. See, now I feel like that scene in Twister where Helen Hunt says, "You guys got to get some new stories."
Well, I promise. I promise. I just want to hear it. I mean, if you don't want to tell it, that's fine. I'll tell it. But
No, it's fine. So, all right, flashing back to, I think this is like 8th grade. And I'm like in my history class, and there's a gal that sits behind me in that history class whose name happens to be Elise Gygax. And in history, this was like my favorite course because I didn't have to do anything. I aced it because I grew up with a father who was like an amateur historian. So he could tell me anything about anything. We would like sit and, I spent a lot of time with him watching historically based movies, and having him, put his 2 cents in and stuff. So anyway, long story short, it was a boring class for me because I was just like sailing through it. So I spent a lot of time in my notebook doodling, and just, drawing monsters and stuff, or comic book based things in there. And Elise was like right behind me, and she'd look over my shoulder and kind of peek at what I was doing. And then one day after class, we're walking out of the room, and she says, "Hey, would you mind if I showed your notebook to my dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, what? Okay, why not? Just make sure I get it back, And
right on.
so the next thing I know, though, I'm getting a call at my house, and it's Gary, and he wants to meet up and discuss some things with me. He says, I might have some stuff for you to do. I didn't know what was going on. So anyway, I meet him. I came over to his house, now, landmark, right?
Right.
Sorry. And great family. Everybody was like super cordial. And I still remember the kids being that little, like Luke and Heidi, and
Right.
just that's when I met them. Now it's like quite different, but they were very hospitable. And then Gary like led me down into the basement, the famous basement, and he had like stacks of the wood grain D&D sets that had just like come from the printer.
Mm.
And I can just remember the smell
New book
of
smell.
fresh from the printer with all those lovely chemical smells to them. um, and so he's talking about that, and I'm looking around the basement, and he's got all this like cobbling equipment, like for shoe cobbling, fixing up shoes. And I was like fascinated with all these tools. I'm like, what's that? What's that for? Totally disregarding the D&D stuff over here.
Right.
So anyway, he asked if I'd be interested in doing some drawing for him, and I told him I was. So he gave me one of the box sets along with a silver cover copy of Chainmail, and he said, take these home, read them. He says, I want you to read them all the way through, and that should like give you some inspiration, and then we'll talk. And that's kind of where it started.
Wow. I don't think there is a single person who's ever been on this show who can tell a story about. I mean, that is.
Let me add to it.
Oh,
I'll go. Please. I'll go even a little further. So the second time Gary and I sat down was at the house, and there was like a desk in the living room, I believe, or no, I think it was like in the dining room, off the dining room, but there was a desk there, and he showed me the originals from Greg Bell.
Oh, wow. Like the
yeah, and they
actual,
were
like, Greg drew this. Oh,
yeah,
man.
and he did them on it was like vellum, like tracing paper,
Uh-huh.
and so Gary was like showing those to me also, like for inspiration. He was like, well, we've got these, and there were like I think it was like a couple of monsters, maybe a barbarian, something like that, but yeah, they were all the originals. I hope
Wow.
I hope he got them back eventually.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I know there's a lot of iconic TSR pieces that are, when it comes to single pieces of art, I'm a lot more sanguine than I am about role-playing game items. Like when I hear that, like, oh, they made 5,000 copies of this, that's awesome. They cost, if you try and buy one on eBay, they cost, $1.5 grand, $2 grand. Why? Because people collect it.
Yeah.
And the justification is, well, we're preserving it. For who? For who? For yourselves? So nobody ever gets to see it. Nobody ever gets to play it. Scan that and put it somewhere,
Yeah.
And right now you and I can go on the internet and get a copy of Dragon magazine, The Dragon, as it was called, #1, a PDF, which I think you did some art in, did you not? I know you did art in The Dragon over several years.
I did. Like I only remember 2 issues, but that's because I haven't really had anything from the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 to look through. I believe there's something of mine in there. I think it was in a something called Creature Corner.
Okay.
And it was like a ghoul sort of a thing that was like could climb trees and stuff like that and attack from above.
Right.
And the other issues that I know of that I'm in are 44 and 45.
Okay. Well,
One of them had an article. It was about introducing alchemists into the game, and it had like a whole really detailed thing on alchemists. And so I did a couple pictures for that one.
I remember that. We've actually done a deep dive on it, just a few random issues of The Dragon and later Dragon magazine. And I distinctly remember when we were looking at The Alchemist seeing, oh, look, art by TRACY, friend of the show, and fan too, I hope. But anyway, the point that I was making is that we could, you and I, everyone in the audience can download a copy of that. It does not change the intrinsic value of a copy of The Dragon #1. The Dragon #1 will remain an expensive, hard to find physical item, and it doesn't hurt that value. If I had the probably well north of $1,000 that would cost, I would not pivot and buy it. So there is no loss in me having it. I don't think anyone who has the kind of money that a wood grain OD&D set, that a stapled copy of Lost Caverns of Sojkonth, or any of those other rarities commands, has ever said, well, now I can just get the PDF off of some random site, so I'm not going to buy it. I was gonna buy it, but now I'm not. They're completely divergent mindsets. But when it comes to art, when it comes to things that you have done that other artists did, we're talking about a single item. And in that case, particularly if it benefits you, like if you go and you sell some of your original art, that I know you still have a few pieces.
Yeah, I do have some.
If that benefits you, and it goes to a collector, hey, good for you. Good for you. Go out and get paid. I don't think it's cognitive dissonance to hold those two views in one's mind. But you're an artist. What do you think?
About selling one's originals?
about selling one's originals versus something utilitarian like a game that can be scanned easily and given away for free.
It's really hard for me to let go of originals.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, even long after they've served their purpose and they're just sitting in my closet somewhere, you know.
Right.
But like I have a lot of stuff from independent comics that I've worked on that probably very few people have even heard of because they weren't like, you know, they didn't go huge or have big runs or anything like that. But I still have like, you know, all my Bristol boards from those different comic projects.
Wow.
I have a lot of samples from my days at Planet Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I've even got like some of the Marvel Mania t-shirts that like you can't get anywhere, but I've got some of the original ones that were printed off. So
right on.
But
and you still got the original for the Knight versus Serpent. I know that.
Yeah. I have to ask the audience about this too, and you. I was thinking of putting it on a shirt.
Yes, I'd buy it.
Do you think folks would buy a shirt with that art on it?
With this art on it, unquestionably, yeah. I would buy it. You guys out in the audience would buy it too. That would be a gorgeous piece. I would proudly wear that in the concourse at GaryCon or anywhere else. That is a beautiful piece, and more of the world should see it. More of the world should see it. Absolutely. Please do that. Let me know when you do that, and I will buy one, if not a couple.
Wow.
So yes, and the audience is chiming in, and yes, they would.
Oh, great. So I don't know if I've answered your question fully, but like I do have some old stuff, and a lot of it I didn't know that I had until recently, but I haven't been that eager to just like go out and sell it because personally, I would have been fearful for at least a while, thinking that it had no value to anyone but myself, and so I wouldn't have like put it out there to be auctioned or anything like that. But I do have some stuff, and you know, if I thought there was enough interest, I might let go of them. But I don't even know the best way to do that these days. I mean, I know eBay's still going, but you know, I don't know if that's the best place to be doing that,
right?
Or not.
Well, I mean, I go ahead.
I was just going to say, I believe that they take quite a percentage of the sale, you know, so they get a big cut.
It's like 21% or something. And I'll tell you, just after human malware hit, I went through because for various reasons we had like in the computer world we had this perfect storm of demand because people figured out that high-end video cards from NVIDIA were really good at Bitcoin mining, like amazing at Bitcoin mining. And so all the NVIDIA video card prices went from like, okay, here's a mid-range card, $159. You know, you'll get really solid gameplay out of it. You know, those cards jumped up to $500. The high-end cards went from $200 or $300 into the thousands. And it was insane. So I went through and cleared off my shelves, and I sold a bunch of junk cards because there were people that had been putting off building a PC, you know, for the kids, for themselves or whatever. But now that everybody was on lockdown, suddenly everyone needed a PC to video conference with. be it to school, to work, just to be entertained and not go stir crazy. So I sold a bunch of old GPUs, and I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. Well, one of them, my fault, nobody's fault but mine, I fell down on shipping promptly. And the person emailed me and he's like, I haven't even seen that you've created an invoice for this. And it like shocked me. And I was like, oh crap. So I got it together and I said, our expediter had issues that I was only recently made aware of. I have shipped that card to you. And this person was in Puerto Rico.
Ah, okay.
Shipping the card to them 3-day. I ended up paying, like, after eBay took their cut, I ended up paying like $7.
Wow.
I made negative $7 on that video card sale, but I wanted to make it right. I wanted to get it to them. So yes, eBay takes a cut. eBay does take a cut. And if anyone, and I say this to you, I know he's a little hard to get a hold of, but if you have a stack of truly collectible D&D items, and guys, I'm not talking about your dog chewed copies of, or your dog chewed LJN Advanced Dungeons and Dragons figures, and your falling apart Dragonlance adventures that you drew pictures on the fly leaves. I mean, truly collectible stuff. Paul Stormberg is definitely a good route to go. Paul is a good guy. You can reach out to Paul. So we have some questions. Yes, Vaughn,
we might have talked about it at one point.
Yeah. I think we have. Maybe the three of us can get on a conference call. But Vaughn had a couple of questions. He's about to wet himself. So let's put these up here. I'm teasing Vaughn. Are there any iconic Dungeons and Dragons monsters that are, for a lack of better terms, your creation? And I think we know the answer to this. So go ahead, Tracy. And
yeah, I think we do. Well, the Mind-Flayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could count the Roper.
Yes, unquestionably. So the Mind-Flayer, talk us through that creative process first, because everybody knows the Mind-Flayer. I mean, even if you were living under a rock and you gave a fig about Dungeons and Dragons, but you liked to binge watch a certain show on Netflix every time it dropped, you're going to know what the Mind-Flayer is. So tell us about the Mind-Flayer.
Okay. Gary had been reading, I think it was like a Cthulhu book or a Cthulhu type of book.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted the character to kind of to have like a squid-like head with tentacles coming out. And he was explaining how this was going to introduce the psionics into the game.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, this thing is like evil. I want it to have, tentacles around its mouth, like make it kind of squid-like, but it's going to be humanoid. And that was pretty much it. He said it was going to be very evil and that it would have these mental abilities. So comic book geek that I am, and lover of geek culture in general, my devious brain came up with a combination of, let's do a figure that looks like Ming the Merciless from Flash Gordon, combined with like a squid head and like 4 tentacles coming out like around the mouth, and we'll put him in a robe, and he'll be like he'll have like Professor X sort of abilities from the X-Men. So when I drew it, I kind of put like little mind waves coming out of his head. If you look at the original art, but yeah, so he made him evil. He's got like a cool looking robe on. He's like holding like a dagger in the other hand, and the other hand is got kind of posed like a Bela Lugosi in Dracula sort of a pose.
Right on, right on. So that anytime you guys see that, that whether it's in 5th edition all the way back, that visual, that's this guy. That's this guy. So, and you had some autographed Funkos that the last one went at Guac. The last one was auctioned off at Guac. You had some autographed Mind-Flayer Funkos. Vaughn says, next Mind-Flayer in my campaign now has to be named Ming. I love it. I love it. And one other from Vaughn here. Let's see. Do you feel artists should be Do you feel artists should be compensated if AI uses their art to generate something new?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a new question for me, but I would have to say I believe they should. I believe they should.
Right on. So there you have it.
And AI only knows what it can take from other sources. Okay.
Yes.
AI has no originality of its own. So what it's going to do is, based on your basic criteria, it's going to go out and search for things that it thinks are related to that, and then it's going to mishmash them together to create an image. Yeah. Now what happens if you're creating fantasy art and AI goes and starts stealing, I'm going to say stealing, from Frank Frazetta, Boris, Julie Bell, and mishmashes them all together? I mean, if it's taking pieces of their original work and reforming it like that, I don't know. I think the right thing to do would be to see that they were somehow compensated. That's just an off the cuff reaction from me.
And I definitely agree with you. I mean, I feel
it's
like
a great question.
If you feed AI certain things, now I've been upfront about this before. I have I have a ChatGPT account, and sometimes I ask it things, and sometimes I will copy and paste a piece of text because it's text only. I will copy and paste a piece of text and say, like as a joke, the other day, it was a month ago now, on Twitter. I asked the AI, I said, here are some lines of dialogue spoken by King Theoden when he was rallying the riders of Rohan before the Battle of Helm's Deep. Give me a rousing speech in the style of Theoden rallying his men, but reminding me to change the oil in my car, that it's time to go get an oil change. And I got a page of completely florid prose that, while I don't think that Professor Tolkien would have written it, it certainly did do a good job creating a pastiche. And I shared it up on Twitter, and people laughed about it and were like, that's amazing, and so on. And somebody said, well, that's fine, but I drive an EEV. And so I went right back and I said, do that again, but for an electric car that needs a battery change. And it gave me a similar passage, and I said, then this is for you. And we had a lot of fun with it. But if I asked it, tell me the opening crawl to Star Wars, but in the style of J.R.R. Tolkien doing The Lord of the Rings, it might not be able to do that. It might make a try and kind of fall on its face. Mm-hmm. I have, as an experiment, asked it, I said, what is the line of dialogue? And yes, I'm kind of singular in my thoughts. What is the line of dialogue in The Lord of the Rings where Gandalf is talking about how much time we have left? And it created an absolutely beautiful paragraph of dialogue that doesn't exist. It just made something up. So you have to feed AI data to get good data back. people that say, you know, well, I asked AI what such and such was, and it gave me a completely cockamamie answer. It's just working within the best parameters it has. And the programmers, rather than have it say, I don't have any data for that, they just fall back on things kind of like what you're asking. And then it goes from there.
Let me go to my writer side for just a moment.
Okay.
And so people have already tried to crank out books written by AI that they could quickly put up on Amazon, and it actually caused Amazon to like reject AI books. But the first ones that came out they all had the same characteristic in that they weren't particularly original, nor were they particularly exciting or actually good to read. It was like, I mean, the sentence structure, the grammar, everything was perfectly fine, but there was that spark was missing. It was almost like derivative works, and so for writing, you can do things like you can do like some copywriting with it. I mean, you can have it create blurbs for your book or for something else, and it'll do that perfectly fine. But the books that came out initially where people used ChatGPT were terrible. So it gives me hope that I'm not a dinosaur yet.
Yeah, not yet. Not yet. But remember, if you go to ChatGPT, be nice to it, folks. It will remember. So we have some more questions here, and I think I'm gonna put these up kind of one after the other because they both kind of entail the same thing. They have to do with computer games and mind flayers. And so the first one says, "Did you have any input on the new Baldur's Gate 3 game?" It centers heavily on mind flayers. But I'm guessing no, you did not.
No, but that would have been very cool.
This sort of
I hear a lot of good stuff about Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, the first one was awesome. The second one, I liked the second one, but we can talk about that later. Lux Armok asks, this is a question I meant for Tracy. Any insight on how Final Fantasy got away with using mind flayers, stepping into a legal arena a bit there? Tracy, any thoughts on that?
I would have to. I mean, I love Final Fantasy, but I don't recall encountering them, so I just may not have had that particular game. I guess I'd have to see them in the game, but I don't. As far as how they got into a video game, I have no idea. Probably just if you want to call it an homage in a gentle fashion, you could say that.
Yeah. Someone was telling.
Interesting question, though.
It's almost a blink and you'll miss it, but there is actually a lot of love for classic Dungeons and Dragons in some of the more advanced JRPGs out there. Like, I didn't believe it until I saw it, but there's a cutscene intro. It's from a few years ago, and it's a game that was, at least as far as I know, only released in Japan, but it's a very European medieval fantasy. And in this intro cutscene, there's a knight, and he's fighting some creatures, and it's just for a moment. I mean, just for a few seconds, he teeters on a precipice as a skeletal demon threatens to knock him over into an abyss. Now, if you know what I'm talking about, that is exactly Dave Sutherland's A Paladin in Hell.
Oh, right. Okay.
There's a few frames where I was like, that is, and leave it to the Japanese to be able to honor, classic Dungeons and Dragons art like that. It was quite fun to see.
Very cool.
So there you go, Lux. I hope that answered your question. Another from Vaughn. Was your artwork used in all versions of Dungeon? Because that's something we definitely need to talk about. But was your art used in all versions of Dungeon, Tracy?
No, because that game's been updated quite a few times, actually. I think a lot of it had to do with going from primarily black and white art to colored art and more colorful cards and stuff like that, and a different game board. The game board changed over time too, because originally I think it was the fold out sheet. It was more like a big piece of laminated paper that folded up, and it was kind of hard to use. But then I think then with the next iteration, they had made it like a game board that can, one of those that can fold into a square, so it can fit in a square box. I think that was the second one. But I know it's even changed since then. I know. Did WotC puts that out now?
We have talked about this on the show before. It is the one thing that Wizards of the Coast has not screwed with as far as rules. Mm-hmm. Dungeon is still Dungeon. The core game is still the core game. They've added a few house rules and a couple of character classes that actually got added all the way back in the 80s. So if you're a purist, you can just ignore that. But unlike D&D and everything else that they've tinkered with, they've left Dungeon the same, but they do still publish it. So this is the one time you guys will ever hear this out of my mouth. If you'd like to play Dungeon, it's a good game. Wizards of the Coast sells it. Go get a copy.
It's a great game, and that's one of the reasons why it hasn't been tinkered with too much, except for maybe the look. It's just a basically good, easy to play, fun game. You can have a long game, you can have a short game. Lots of people can play, a couple of people can play, and it's still great, no matter which way you go.
An advanced game, a basic game. You know, you can just have like, okay, everybody needs 10,000 gold pieces to make it out of the dungeon, or you can go completely the other way and say, okay, there's separate classes, there's magic users, there's fighters, there's elves. If you get supplemental stuff that was later published in The Dragon and TSR published with the new dungeon, now you can play hobbits and other beings.
Yeah, and the original, we were joking about that this week with when I was telling you what the original game pieces looked like, those little plastic pawn-looking things.
Right. The sorry pawns.
Yeah, and there were people out there who said, yeah, the blue one is for the magic user, and the yellow one is for this guy, and I was like just amazed. But they did switch it in the game to where they had like they now have standees, like little fold-up characters with little plastic bases.
Yes, that is correct. They have little cardboard standees now. So and D&Ders, there's absolutely no reason to not grab your minis and use those as pawns in the game instead of boring old cardboard or plastic pawns.
Oh yeah, you got to use the minis, man.
Yeah, you gotta have that done. And I have heard of many efforts that people have done where they've actually they've used PVA foam. Some people have tried it in Dwarven Forge. Other people, I'm sure, are going to 3D print it. But they've made fully realized 3D boards for Dungeon, which I think is just I think that's just spiffy. I do love toys out on the tabletop. I want to go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think going back to Vaughn's question, I just remembered about like unique monsters. I think I have been credited with drawing the first Lich for D&D, and that was in Eldritch Wizardry. So I just
Yes.
thought of that now. Sorry.
Yes. No, that's fine. And I want to share this with everyone. This is the unsigned, because I have not gotten a copy of the signed to shelf, but this is the unsigned Dungeon Delver merch, and I'm sharing this with you guys because, let me see here. Well, you pick up the other one. So you can see very clearly it draws inspiration. Tracy drew some inspiration from that is the original 1975 dungeon.
No, it's not.
But
that's a later version.
Is that a later version?
Yeah, the original is square, and there is an image out there for it. And because I stole the colors from it to make the art.
Okay, well, I got to find it. Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you for the super very much. Now I got to go looking for it because
you'll find it in like a minute.
Yeah, this is the one I found when I went looking for it. And I've been telling everybody, look, it's the same. The art it draws. So now I just feel like an idiot.
No.
So let me see. Now I got to look. So let's fire up the Google machine.
I mean, that one is similar, and you'll see when you put it up against the original one. But yeah, that's like a later edition, and they tweak the art and stuff.
All right, so let's see. Oh, I got it here. It's actually on the Wikipedia article, but it's really small, so I apologize in advance, folks. Let me see if I can do this. You know what? I'll just share this real quick, and
yeah, go for it.
I'll zoom this in. You guys can kind of get a feel for it, but yay JPEG compression. So let's share that again.
Little low res.
Screen. Yeah. The wonderful 240. All right. So you guys can see that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there we go. So that is the original dungeon, and you guys compare that to Tracy's art for the merch. So we're hype about that. We're big on that, and I love the purples and the blues.
Yeah, me too.
So did you? Was Dungeon just an assignment, or did you get were you like part of a playtest group or anything like that?
Yeah, both actually. Because I had to, but when I was doing it, I had the original the board. The game board was like put together by hand. Gosh, I can't remember who made it. Maybe McGarry?
Dave McGarry made it, and it's my understanding that basically the Twin Cities guys were so hype on playing Dave's fantasy game. Because remember, this is pre-Dungeons and Dragons. This is the game that Gary went to Minneapolis and played, and he was like, holy crap, this guy's sitting on a gold mine. We have to do something with this. But Arneson was running that game 5 and 6 nights a week, sometimes 4 or 5 hours a night. So he's working a job or going to school, I don't remember which, and then turning around and running this game constantly, and he never got to play. Well, Dave's rules, and this actually led to a lot of tension at TSR later, but Dave's rules were all up here. So to say, hey, how do we do this, that, and the other, I just roll some dice. So kind of condensing from the essence of thought, they got Dave's basic combat system down, created dungeon so that there were nights that Dave could actually play in a game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so what you would have played would have been that that Dave McGarry put together for Dave Arneson.
Yeah, all handmade, and like the little the pathways with the squares were all cut out and like glued onto the board, and that's essentially the first version that I played.
Yeah, so you probably touched the first ever in existence copy of Dungeon to get your inspiration on, and and try that out. So yeah, now I have, and I've shown this. I'm not dragging this thing down and causing an avalanche of stuff, but I have an older, that's like an 80 or 81 version of Dungeon from TSR. But again, the rules remain the same, and witness this rarity. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for a potentially incomplete copy of Dungeon off of the internet. Go get a copy for $20. Your kids will love it. If you want to teach your kids, if you want to introduce them to Dungeons and Dragons slowly, do it. Get some minis. All right. Don't settle for their plastic ones, but definitely get some minis. And then give them Dungeon Delver merch shirts.
Yeah,
sure. Definitely.
I think that goes without saying.
Yes, we're gonna have those. We're gonna have those available soon, and it's gonna be many things. Like one person was like, "I want a hoodie." I'm like, "Okay, we'll do hoodies," because it basically I just click on. I want it on this. I'll do a thong bikini if somebody wants it. But anyway,
I would say too. Thinking on the Dungeon game once again. To me, I mean, I think it is as timeless and classic as like a Candyland or a Chutes and Ladders or a Monopoly. I think
yeah, unquestionably, and I think it's almost a shame that Fantasy Forest didn't do as well as Dungeon. I mean, Fantasy Forest, if you can find a copy, it's like just, hundreds of bucks because it didn't go anywhere. But it was the Candyland, or what is the one with the cherries? You flip the spinner and you take the Hi-Ho Cherry-O.
Hi-Ho Cherry-O, yeah.
Hi-Ho Cherry-O, but I still find one of those things like every couple of months. I'll be sweet because my kids had one and we played it with the kids a lot, but the cherries got scattered. But
we did that with Don't Spill the Beans, and somehow we got beans all over the damn house. Drove my mom crazy.
Did you ever play and get to work Mousetrap?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I knew a lot of kids that had Mousetrap, but growing up, either they didn't have all of it, or they had all of it, and it would put the marble in, clack, falls off. Not exactly precision engineering there, but I'm glad at least you had some fun with it.
Well, the worst part is if a piece breaks, you're kind of screwed, because the thing is a Rube Goldberg machine, and if one of those parts breaks, you can't complete that machine, and you might as well throw the Mousetrap game away.
That is correct. Yeah, I mean, I remember. God, this has been 23 years ago now. Yeah, it's been 22 years ago. We went to spend a weekend at a friend's house down in the Keys. They were lovely people, and
Bernie's.
No, it was our friends Sean and Crystal, and it was Crystal's house she grew up in when she was a kid, and her dad was away at the time, and so it was just the four of us down there. And she said, and I jokingly said there was on a shelf, "Hey, you've got Mousetrap. Let's play." And and she said, "All right." So we spent like a half an hour setting this thing up and looking at other game boxes for. She's like, "Oh, I remember. I think this piece is in there," and we got it all set up. We couldn't find a marble.
Oh no.
We could not find the marble. I wandered around outside because every once in a blue moon you'll find like some kid has lost a marble. Couldn't find a marble. Could not play Mousetrap.
No.
Oh
you
my gosh!
You use a 6-sider in that instance.
Clack. It just,
game over.
Vaughn says the original grinning green demon is yours too. He wasn't green. You didn't visualize him as green, but the great devil face in Tomb of Horrors was all you.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
The first
and you guys,
devil face portal.
Now I told a fib. I said I will recommend one Wizards of the Coast thing that you go get. I'll recommend 2 Wizards of the Coast thing for you to get. The deluxe version of Art and Arcana, because it's got a folio copy of Gary's original Tomb of Horrors adventure in it. It's a gaming product. It is a classic D&D gaming product put out by Wizards of the Coast. So yes, you should buy that. But your Tomb of Horrors is in there that you had.
Yeah.
Was it 14 drawings in 28 days or 28 drawings in 14 days? I forget.
I think it was 14 and 28, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
it was a tight schedule.
Yeah. All of the Illos in the original. Oh, no. The artwork is great. So you guys should absolutely. Let me tell you something. It's right now, I think Amazon does like a 32% discount on it, so it's $68. And you might think, well, that's kind of expensive. First of all, you get an awesome art book. You get a couple of art prints. You get the original Tomb of Horrors and Alan Lucian's Tomb of Rahotep that you can turn around and run in a game. You're not going to get something that Gary Gygax carried around with him to conventions for $68, guys, anywhere else. So I do recommend picking up a copy of Art and Arcana. Of course, yours won't be autographed by Tracy Lesch, but
oh well.
I'm sure if somebody meets you at Gary Con or another convention you might be attending, you'll be more than happy to sign it for them, though, right?
Oh yeah, hell to the yeah.
All right, right on. So,
I went out to thinking about doing the show tonight. I went out to Shattermare Comics, who I did like a variant cover for, and I was very happy to see that it had sold out. So
excellent. That's good news.
About that.
That's very awesome. So, what's like other than the stuff that we're working on, which again, that's a what's on tap next? What have you got coming next? You did the Shattermere comic stuff.
We're gonna be doing some more stuff.
Okay.
Brian Cody, the president, called me just the other day, and we talked about some upcoming projects. They really want to adapt my my novel into a graphic novel. So that's one big project that we're kicking around. But there'll be I think they're going to take the cover from the cover I did was for a collection of a comic book called Hardly Heroes, and I can tell you about that in a sec. But what they want to do is they want to take the art and do it for like the regular comic, like do like a #1 issue, I think is what he was talking about. But you can still see it in their if you go to their shop, it's there, and it's like, it says it's my cover and all that.
Okay. Spell that out for me. I'll put the link up. Is that Shadowmere?
It's shatter, like shattering glass, and then mare like a horse.
Chattermare.
Chattermare Comics.
All right, let me pull them up here real quick, and I will. You know what? Let's take a look at that. Let's take a quick look.
And this is like this came out of the series. They do a series called Hardly Heroes, and it's like it's the story of their particular group and their adventuring. So it's basically the creators are using stuff that came out of their own playing to do this comic, Hardly Heroes. And so they had me do a variant for the first collection where they put issues 1 through 6 in the collection. So if you wanted to get a start on Hardly Heroes, it was all there, and it had a variant cover by me, which is signed.
That your variant cover there, Tracy?
No.
That is it. There it is.
Yeah, that's it there.
Yeah. So that is unfortunately sold out. Did you get a copy though? Please tell me you got a physical copy.
I don't have it in my hands yet, but I was assured that they set that aside for me.
Yeah, that is one thing, and I don't care if you're a writer or an artist or both. Get a copy of your stuff. I had to go out. And track down a physical copy of Elemental Moon that I did with my buddy Lance Halvermail back before the earth cooled. Even if they're like, well, we'll send you a copy, but we're taking that off of what we're going to pay you. Get a physical copy. Guys, trust me, you're going to want one. A time will come when you will want one. So absolutely do get a physical copy of what you've got going on. So you were talking, so they want to do a graphic novel of Armor of God. Yes?
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. I am.
Yeah, they read it and they really liked it. And they were like, yeah, this would make a great graphic novel. So
very cool. And you guys, let me see here. Hey, you know what? Sorry about that, everyone. I'm going to bring this up real quick. Tracy, actually, Tracy, do you mind an Amazon link, or would you prefer someone go from a gallery or store page of yours to buy it?
Amazon is fine.
Okay, let me see here. And let me not navigate to Amazon in this browser, because we would lose the show.
Oops. Where's the AWS love, man?
Right. Okay, so you guys can check this out. This is share this up right now. You can head over to Amazon. Armor of God, the Paladin. That is available. That is a paperback, but I've seen it. It's a chunky guy. It's not some dinky little thing you're gonna lose on a bookshelf. This is a good sized book, and it's got an absolutely gorgeous cover there, and it is the medieval. It is the medieval world shortly after the battle cries of the Crusades have faded. Now a timeless and secret evil is at work, stalking behind the scenes of everyday life. A new kind of crusader is desperately needed to raise a sword in defense of the helpless. It is time for a warrior to rise. And you can get that on Kindle, and then it kind of goes into some plot details we're not going to spoil. You guys can go read if you want. But I will read this bolded part here. What lies ahead for one mortal on earth who can summon the very armor of God? So $4.99 Kindle, $17.99 paperback. What are you people waiting on? Click and purchase. That's what I have to say about that. And that's
and review it.
And review it. Leave good reviews. So that is your book coming out in graphic novel format, and one presumes computer game, then film franchise afterward. We
Wouldn't
all
that
hope
be nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
would. It would.
I'd love to see a movie made of it, and I don't mean for the bucks. I would just love to see it up on the screen. That would be like really exciting.
Yeah, the writer's relationship with film can be a funny thing, as I understand it. I read a book in the '90s that was absolutely amazing. It was written by a gentleman. He'd since passed away. He was born in America, like in New York, but almost immediately when the whole world was emigrating to America through New York, he and his family went back to Ireland. And was it Frank McCourt was his name? And the book was called Angela's Ashes, and Angela was the name of his mother.
Oh, yeah.
And he wrote about his experiences growing up in Ireland and then coming back to the United States, which was effectively an alien country to him at that point. And they made a movie of it at some point. I never saw the movie. I read the book. I loved the book. One day, they invited him on set for one day. He never looked at the script. They never sent him a screenplay. They simply optioned it from his publisher, probably HarperCollins, and said, "Oh, congratulations!" And it's, "Oh, well, that's nice." And here's a big fat check. "Oh, that's rather nice." And he said, "Well, I was on set one day. Didn't have any bloody idea what they were supposed to be filming. Didn't recognize a scene. Didn't recognize what any of the people were saying. It looked nice, and they were very nice to me. But then they said, right, that's it. F off." You know,
that's disappointing.
So, yeah, I mean, it can be a strange thing. And I'll tell you a story. Just you and I, remind me later when, we're back in the green room having drinks after the show, about a little brush with that I myself had. But anyway, so Armor of God.
Yeah.
You've had the Shattermare comics. You've got merch that's coming out for us, merch that's coming out for you. I think unquestionably all of us want a t-shirt or a hoodie or something like that of that. And I am fortunate enough to have you at my game table in a virtual sense on Monday nights. What's next? Any con appearances anytime soon? I know things fell through with QuestCon here in Orlando.
Yeah, but, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but they were quite nice about it though when I told them I had to drop out. But so Class Act over there, I'll be back there at some point.
I hope so.
The people and the experience were very good.
Any thoughts on getting up to GaryCon this coming year? Do you think, or?
I would love to. Yeah, I definitely have to think about it because, like as you know, I moved not that long ago.
Right.
So we had to purchase a house, and then the house needed an HVAC system. So then that got thrown on my bills, and then there was something else too. But yeah, my money is stretched pretty thin these days. But
I get it. I completely get it.
And medical things, of course, that's always like.
Yeah. You feeling okay in general? How is Shelby, by the way? Tracy's lovely wife, Shelby. Well, I mean, that says it all. She's a lovely person. How is she doing?
She's good. She's
excellent.
Probably watching.
Hi, Shelby.
I'd like to take her the next time, though. I mean, the last time I went was sort of like to promote the Art and Arcana book, and I did get to do a couple of panels with some of the other D&D artists, which was a lot of fun.
I imagine.
but that was like, I mean, I think that was because I was doing panels with for the book people, because they picked up my tab, so it made it easier for me to go there.
Yeah.
Um, but to this day, I'm not sure who exactly picked up the tab. Nobody like came out and said, "Oh yeah, so and so paid for your hotel," and you know, I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, of course, this wonderful audience of mine was kind enough to hell, send me and the missus up to Lake Geneva for Gary Con this past year. And I've had a lot of folks who said, "Oh, we're going to see you next year, right? You're going to be here next year." And I'm like, no.
Kind of
And so
expensive.
I can get you a badge. I can get you a place to stay. And I'm like, can you get me an airplane ticket? Because I can't,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Exactly,
It's like that's
exactly.
I, if I was in Racine or Milwaukee or hell, if I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, I could drive up there and find a way to get. I mean, you stroll around the open con area for a little while. Is somebody going to tackle you and pummel you and drag you outside because you're not wearing a not wearing a lanyard?
Hmm.
It's that airplane flight.
Yeah, it's murder.
Hey, Shelby's in the chat.
Is she?
Yeah.
Hello, love.
when when I can hear her typing through your microphone on the show. But yeah, we like it some Shelby around here. Paint Minis Live actually has a question because this is turning into old folks home week. So we'll answer some questions. He says, "What's the one thing you wish you'd done as an aspiring artist before things took off? Any words of wisdom to share about balancing art as a source of income and not going dry creatively?"
Well, to this day, I don't live off of my art. I do work, full disclosure, I do work a regular job, and then anything else I do is like my second job. So I've got like a couple of jobs in reality. Um, let's see, what's one thing I wish I had done as an aspiring artist before things took off?
Watch Star Wars more.
That's always helpful. That's
Yes.
always helpful.
Sat in a theater
Um,
for 12 hours.
Gosh, that's a hard question because I grew up surrounded by comic books, okay, with some of the
Mhm.
best artwork that's ever been committed to page. Um, the greats, Jack Kirby, John Buscema, Jim Steranko,
Mhm.
um, a lot of these people who I've gotten to meet, um, Neil Adams, Will Eisner. I mean, the visual presentations in those books to me were like they're better than movies because they can stage everything in the art that you can't do in front of a camera.
Sure.
Uh, the angles, the cinematography, if you want to call it that. So I had a lot of inspiration, and I started drawing at like a super 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 early age, because I was a kid and the Batman show was on, and I was like doodling Batman all the time. And then, buying comics, my folks would give me like an allowance, and I'd run down to the local grocery store and get my comics out of a vending machine. Believe it or not, they had comic book vending machines
Wow.
when I was growing up. Yeah, they were really cool. They'd have them stacked up in each compartment, sort of like newspapers on the street corner in those things. And but it had like a handle you pulled out, like sort of like the old cigarette machines. And so you had these books, and to keep them from sticking together, they had like a layer of like powder on them, which I don't know what it was. It could have been cornstarch or
Wow.
Plaster. I don't know. It was like a very thin coating. So when you got your book out of the machine, you had to kind of like blow the stuff off of the cover. And comics back then were like 12 cents.
Yeah.
So
12 cents. I remember when I started reading comics, they were 50, except some titles were only 35. There were a few titles that were still only 35.
yeah.
And when I started reading X-Men, I started going back and getting older issues of X-Men from the local comic shop, as well as and I remember when I hit they had the little starburst up by the logo in the upper right corner. You know how Marvel did with all the heroes' heads, the comics code logo, and then the price. And I saw some still only 35 cents.
Until they jumped to 50.
Yeah. But and my daughter, go
ahead.
No,
I was just going to say the other thing that I'm still thinking about this first question, but this is going to sound kind of corny, but my father did commercial art at one point, and the one thing I would say that I wish I had done was to get more, I don't know, leading from him, like more art instruction and stuff, because he knew his stuff. He knew his stuff, and he did beautiful work. I mean, there's that piece of his in Boot Hill, and it just gives you an idea how talented the man was.
Yeah.
But like a kid, I kind of wasted the time that I could have had, not knowing that would have really probably made me a better artist, or a better artist quicker, however you want to look at it. But that's one thing that I wish I had done. But everything else, I got to experiment with mediums. I never lacked for trying out different mediums. Besides pen and ink, I did some oils, and I love watercolor, pastels. I had the full range, and I did take illustration in college, so I got some more of that under my belt. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. I know it's kind of a roundabout way of getting there.
Well, there you go, PML. I hope that I hope that was what you were looking for there. But
sorry to ramble, but when you and I talk, like, things come to my mind out of left field.
We are the rambling guys. Let me tell you what, we get on this show and you and I will ramble on. Now, I'm going to ramble on a little bit about this, because this is something that I can't remember if you and I have talked about this before, but I have oft been.
Are you teasing something?
I'm not teasing anything. No, this is genuinely. I think you and I have discussed before, and I cannot remember if you said yes. Now, I know you were. That you worked for Marvel Entertainment. Did you ever submit anything for the actual comic books? Did you essentially try out for any of the Marvel titles?
I tried out, but it was just to become an approved artist with them, where it's like I could be third party working for Planet Hollywood, but I would have permission from them to draw, original artwork featuring their characters.
Right.
And yeah, so they give you an art test, and and their art director looked at that, and they approve or disapprove. So, but they gave me the thumbs up, and then I was off to town, creating a lot of t-shirt designs and some other merch.
Right on, right on. And that's where you got when that project wrapped, you got your Stan Lee painting, right?
Yeah, yep.
You got to get a picture of that. Just very careful. I'm not going to ask you to go grab it and hey, check this out. But get next time you're on. There's your homework. See if you can get a nice picture of that and show that to us.
Yeah.
I'll let you tell what we're talking about just to kind of hype these guys up a little bit. There's a fun story here. So why don't you tell us that?
Oh, with the painting?
Yeah, the painting.
Oh yeah. Okay. So so I had an office at Planet Hollywood corporate, which is like down on I think it's on Turkey Lake Road or Sand Lake Road. You know where that is, right, Bill?
Yeah, I know.
So one day, Planet folks came into my office and they had this crate, and it was like, it was sort of weird because it didn't look like a normal crate. It wasn't like a box or anything like that. It was like, a couple of frames to hold the painting in, but you couldn't see the painting until we took the thing apart. And they didn't even know what was going on with it. They're like, well, we don't know, except that Stan Lee's office sent this to you. And it turned out to be a painting. The artist's name escapes me, but when we talk about it again, I'll have that in mind. But
okay.
It's like a painting. I think it's either oil or it's gouache, but it's like a picture of Spider-Man, and in the background, some of his foes are trying to get him. And it was made into a silk screen at one point. But what I've got is like an original painting. I mean, if you look at it, you can see that it's a painting. You can see it's got brush strokes and, and drips here and there that,
right.
You wouldn't get from a silk screen. And it's signed by the artist, and Stan Lee signed it on the back. And he sent a really nice little note with it, just thanking me for my work on Marvel Mania, and that he was really excited about it, and he loved what we were doing, and it was like a little token from him to say thanks. So, yep, that's how
that
I got
is
that
just
prized possession.
Fantastic, dude. That is fantastic. And
I wish I had the picture of it handy. I know I scanned it, but I'd have to go search it on my computer here, and that could take a while. But I'll make sure that the next time we get together, I'll send you an image of it, or I can flip it up on the screen.
But this is a big piece, isn't it? Like you said, you scanned it, but it's large, right?
Yeah, it's big. It's big.
Like movie poster size, or bigger.
Bigger than that.
Wow.
And it's square, so it's kind of unique, but it's a great piece. Well, you've seen it.
Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to see that. Yeah, that's cool. Please do definitely have that next time.
That.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
So, are you working on any more Kane pieces? Because we have the water zombies.
I am.
Excellent. So, what's next in the Kane series, or do you not want to give it away yet?
Ooh,
I'll leave that up to you.
It was from very early on in Kane's adventures.
Good. You'll tell me what it was, because I don't remember.
It took place in an underground city.
Okay.
It had like Grecian.
Yes. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Something terrible and awful slithered out of a pit.
Yes. Okay.
Chased our poor party out.
Yeah. And as I recall, okay, so what Tracy and I are talking about here, just to kind of clue you guys in, is Tracy's been playing now 4 years, 5 years. I don't really
been that long.
It's been a few minutes.
Wow.
But Tracy joined the Monday night AD&D game that I wax on about sometimes, and I sent them into what I thought was a pretty unique dungeon. It was an outdoor-indoor area. Basically, if you take the Lost City and crank up the terror and difficulty to 11, you've kind of got a picture of what's going on. And I'm not going to spoil this, but I picked a pretty awful monster.
It was horrible.
Out of a TSR book, a pretty awful monster. I think it did a total of 20 points of damage before the party took it down. It's a 10 hit die monster, and they were just like, nope, blasted it. I failed magic resistance rolls. It got holes knocked in it, and it was just I was like, well,
I think I pranged it with some arrows.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, the next time, if I ever feel compelled to send that after you again, I'll send 4. His number appearing 1 to 4, and you guys can fight 4 of them.
Oh my god! Like
so
hill giants weren't enough,
Oh, hill giants, smell giants. You guys dealt with those just so easily.
God.
But
I thought I was going to get crushed. What are you talking about?
It never ceases to amaze me. You guys, you worry so much, but it's nice to know that there's another great moment in Kane's career is coming up, and I'm going to run for that Monday night game. I am going to run the Giant series, the GDQ. So we better get some good Kane art out of that too.
Oh yeah, for sure. As long as we continue to have great adventures, I'll be inspired. But this one. That thing was just so horrific. I have to portray it, and I have to show Kane like doing his thing in the face of that awful, horrible creature. I'll never forget that. I want to do one involving some goblins as well, because we faced off a lot of goblins.
Sure.
I think that was White Plume Mountain.
I don't think there are any goblins in White Plume Mountain, but you can certainly do stuff. I mean, dude, paint and draw what you want to. But anyway, PML, regarding your question, please contact me over Discord. Don't rebroadcast this without talking to me first, please. How many IBs are left?
Did I say something I wasn't supposed to?
No, you didn't say anything. You're fine. I'm just trying to catch up with questions to me. If you're talking about unspoken for, Vaughn, 94, or is it 96? It's either 94 or 96. We're doing a run of 3D prints. Well, if I get the purchase orders, I'm going to be printing up some of the Dave Sutherland beholders, or not Dave Sutherland, Tom Wham beholders. And I said, when I get 100 orders, that's when I'll start printing. And I've gotten either 4 or 6. I'll have to go look, but I ain't nowhere near 100. But anyhow, Shelby says, check Discord for that picture. Which picture?
Probably the Spider-Man painting.
The Spider-Man painting. Oh, let me hop up. I actually have Discord here. I can bring that up. You guys bear with me for just a moment.
Yeah, I can't see the comments, so I don't know what she said.
There we go. Okay. All right. Let's see. Thank you very much, Shelby. I'm gonna move this over to an appropriate place. Let's just drag and drop that in there, and we'll pop that open, zoom that in some, and now this is a good photo that should give you guys an idea of what it entails. But trust me when I say it doesn't do justice to the real thing. But it is It is a nice one. So let me share screen, window, and let's add that. So that's the one you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. That is very, very nice. Thanks again for sharing that up, Shelby. And that came with the letter from Stan Lee, and that's just awesome.
And I wish there was something to show you the scale, because it's really large. Like right there, it looks like a comic book cover, but it's big.
Yeah, it's like, and again, I've seen it. That's like 4 feet on a side.
Yeah.
If you guys remember,
if not more.
You guys remember going to record stores, or some of you who have been who've been on the show long enough, you remember the Lord of the Rings flat that I have. It's almost that big. It is a huge piece of art, and hopefully we'll get a really, really good scan of it. But thank you very much, Shelby, for going out and grabbing it for us. That is greatly appreciated. High grade spins a web of any size. Yes.
And I own every damn cartoon.
There you go. Okay, trivia time, Tracy.
Okay.
Who was the producer and lead animator on the Spider-Man cartoon?
Ralph Bakshi.
Very good. Got it in one. Didn't even get a tick off the clock. Very good. Okay, follow-up question.
Oh, boy.
What Ralph Bakshi cartoon?
Wizards.
No. No, it's not Wizards. A little too eager on the buzzer, but we'll give you another
Mighty
chance.
Heroes.
What Ralph Bakshi cartoon did Ralph Bakshi recycle animation from the Spider-Man cartoon for? It was also a TV series.
That was also a TV series?
Yes, it was also a TV series.
And he recycled art from Spider-Man?
He recycled animation from, like Disney did with their mid-60s and early 70s cartoons.
Ooh, okay. Well, give me a hint. How obscure is it? Obscure?
It's science fiction based.
Rocket Robin Hood.
Very good. Rocket Robin Hood. That's right. He reused a lot of the animatic stuff. And I think there's an episode of Spider-Man where he basically just said, you know what, screw it. People from another planet are invading New York, and just threw a bunch of animation from Rocket Robin Hood into.
He did.
And yes, he did. Hey, when you that whole show probably had you got to figure maybe had a $150, $200 for its entire budget. So, squeezing what you can out of the animation you got is key. Yes, high grade Rocket Robin Hood. Go Google that. But anyway,
and Space Angel.
Space Angel.
Remember?
I remember had the actors' lips. They'd paint their lips like this distressing shade of red, and have them talking for the characters, and just do a color removal around around the mouth of the character on screen.
Yeah,
Clutch Cargo did that too. Yeah, that was those were the cartoons of. It's really, 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 really incredibly early on a Saturday morning, and nothing good is on yet. So early. I flip over to UHF and watch this, or it's a given day, and we spent the night with our cousins who lived out in the country and didn't get good TV reception, and only picked up the UHF out there.
That's where I found out about Eighth Man. I don't know if you remember Eighth Man.
Eighth Man, yeah, one of the early animes to come to American Airways. That one, Astro Boy and Speed Racer.
Yeah, and Marine Boy. Because I used to draw the Marine Boy. He had a logo, And I remember I was at my grandmother's, and she had this stack of like cork coasters, and I was like drawing the Marine Boy boomerang on it and like whipping those around the house.
There you go. So Shelby reports in, it is 40 inches by 40 inches. So that's not a small piece of art. You know, that is that's basically just shy of 4 feet on a side. So but yeah, does Husqvarna do power armor? I don't know. Spider-Man party at Tracy's house. Hey, I'm not revealing any addresses. I don't want you lunatics to show up. But yeah, I was I can't draw a stick figure, so I never had any such inclinations. But I was a big fan. People are like, you know, I see this on Twitter or on Facebook. It's like, oh, post a picture of the first anime you ever watched, and people are like posting pictures from Pokemon and you know, some old school people posting up pictures from what do you call it, Sailor Moon and stuff like that. And I'm like,
oh God.
Well, here's Speed Racer.
Yeah.
You want to see the second one? Battle of the Planets, Science Ninja Team, as they called it in Japan. You know, and then I got into that fancy animation with Macross.
And here I was watching Eighth Man and Astro Boy.
Eighth Man and Astro Boy.
And Gigantor.
Oh, yeah, Gigantor. That was one.
And they were all in black and white, and damn it, we were happy with that.
We were happy with that. We were happy they were even moving. You know, and
to see color.
Well, I got to see color after a while. We didn't get a color TV till we got like a 19-inch GE when my grandmother passed away, and my dad used some of the inheritance money when Grandma Sylvie passed away to buy us a color set. So yeah, I didn't know what I didn't color cartoons. Pfft, what's that? We had great cartoons in the 70s and 80s. Fantastic cartoons. And you know, it kind of floors me because I think we had great cartoons in the 70s and 80s. We had cartoons from the 40s and 50s in the 70s and 80s. Because every afternoon you'd get a little after school cartoon break on one of the local channels there in Gadsden, and it was like 4 Bugs Bunny cartoons, like 30 minutes, 4 7.5-minute cartoons, you know. But it was all, and I could be just as entertained by a Leon Schlesinger Looney Tunes made between World War I and World War II as I could, you know, any quote unquote new stuff. And I have a lot of peers. Did you go? Okay, so this must have hit when you were in your mid-20s. So I don't know if you were consuming animation, but did you ever watch G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man? Was that ever on your radar?
G.I. Joe, Transformers, not so much. And a lot of stuff I took a pass on because it was just too, I don't know, like Smurfs. I mean, I'm not going to sit down and watch the Smurfs.
Yeah, no.
Johnny Quest, though, I'm all over that crap right there.
Johnny Quest was pretty badass. I did like Johnny Quest.
Or even the remake, you know, the New Adventures of Johnny Quest. That was pretty good too.
Yeah, that wasn't.
G.I. Joe was good. I don't know. What were some other cartoons then?
80s cartoons. See, that's just like a lot of people in my age. I'm not talking about people who are Gen X, but born in like 1980 or 1977 or something like that. I mean, a lot of people who are my age, when Masters of the Universe and Transformers and all that hit, and they were in their early teens, they tuned into that, and they're all about Masters and GI and stuff like that. But at that point, right at that point in the early 80s, my parents got me a computer. So I'd come home from school and I'd sit down and I'd play Jupiter Lander till the sun went down.
Mm-hmm.
I did not give a fig anymore about cartoons. I just didn't.
I had a computer that ran off a cassette tape.
Yeah, mine did too. My first one was a Commodore VIC-20. Had a 1531 cassette drive. Took about 5 minutes to load or save. To save a program or to load it back so I could play it. Did you ever type in programs out of the magazines?
Yeah, I had the Tandy version.
Yeah,
so there was all sorts of stuff you could get for the Tandy, but it was excruciatingly painful to do.
Yep. But yeah, man, those were the days, and I just the He-Man and stuff like that just went right past me.
My dad would wake me up on Saturday mornings for Bugs Bunny.
Oh, there you go. The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show, like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
90 minutes of classic Bugs Bunny Roadrunner cartoons, which comes out because they were hitting you with commercials between every cartoon.
Yeah.
So it comes out to about 10, 10, maybe 12 cartoons in total. But God, when you were a little kid, it felt amazing, didn't it?
Yeah, he was up before I was, and he'd get me up, and he'd make breakfast for us, and we'd hunker down in front of Bugs Bunny, and that was like his favorite thing. So
yeah, that was
those were the days,
Yeah, and Kennick says you had to watch when it was on.
Yeah,
because if you missed it, if you slept in, if you decided you wanted to do something else, or heaven forbid, if the weather was bad and the TV reception wasn't great, you weren't getting your cartoon fix till the next weekend.
Right. That's a good point. Good point.
There was a guy, and you can find this. And here we go, meandering again. But you can find these on YouTube. They're great videos. There was a dude who set up God bless him. He downloaded tons of cartoons, and I think he had like VHS tapes and DVDs of them, and he basically put together a Saturday morning lineup. Went through the painstaking trouble, and as a guy who recreates first edition AD&D modules, I salute him. He made a PDF of like a PDF booklet that looked like TV Guide.
Oh, cool.
And one day he did like a watch party. He didn't stream like straight to YouTube. That would have gotten him copyright struck. But he had a video camera, and he started on Saturday morning. And if you went to his website when he was setting this up, you could download the PDF and print it out so you'd know what cartoons he'd be watching when. And then he used like a digital to analog video converter to put it through his big Zenith console television.
Oh, wow.
And did like a day-long Saturday morning. And that was cool. I thought that was pretty slick.
I bought some DVDs that were like that. That were it was a series where it was called Cartoon Saturday Morning. And
nice.
It's like it's all like Hanna-Barbera, but they just completely mix it up. They throw a little bit of Magilla Gorilla in there, and then a little bit of Space Ghost, and the Herculoids, and then Squiddly Diddly, and Yippee Yappy and Yahooey, and just on and on. And each one of I think there were like 3 of them, and they've got like a couple of DVDs in there, and those are a lot of fun. I think you can still find them, but you just pop in the DVD, and it's like basically your own little simulation of Saturday morning cartoon time.
Man, that's great. Did it have commercials on it though? That's important.
No
Yes.
commercials.
This guy, when he did period accurate commercials.
Oh wow.
So, he'd figure out where the commercial breaks were supposed to be and drop period accurate commercials in. And
That's
that is
too cool.
Yeah, that's a level of geekiness I can absolutely appreciate.
Shelby is like when I posted the other week for Sci-Fi Friday, I was reminded how big a Star Blazers fan that my wife is. She's like
really?
she loves Star Blazers.
Very cool.
We had it all on VHS at one point.
Get that woman a DVD set.
Yeah, I know. They're pretty expensive.
But, really?
Yeah, the first one is like for first season it's like $50.
It's not good. Not great. I'm just checking here. Don't want to miss anybody. We talked about Battle of the Planets fun.
Gatchaman.
Gatchaman, yes. Science Ninja Team Gatchaman, Battle of the Planets. Also later G-Force.
Yeah, G-Force.
Two different things, Battle of the Planets or G-Force. Hey, what about live action? You remember Space Guardians?
Space Guardians.
Goldar, Silvar, and their little boy Gam.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Space Giants. Yeah.
Space Giants.
Yeah, that was Goldar. That would show up every afternoon on our V8, our UHF station 44 in Chicago.
Yeah, that was the original transforming robots, because they could all turn into fighter jets. Yeah, fighter jets or rockets. Land of the Lost was a good one.
Yeah.
We're slowly just melting down into a puddle of total nostalgia here. We're just going to be
Sacco.
Johnny Sacco. There you go.
And flying robot. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
No, I love when we do this.
I do too, man. This is awesome. Now, you're speaking of television and television fun. What? God, Brain, why do you do this to me? You were on a TV show. You co-hosted a TV show back in the day. We're kind of coming up on hour 2 here. Why don't you take us to credits? Tell us about you being on TV back in the Chicagoland area, or Milwaukee. I'm sorry, Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, yeah.
Milwaukee. Okay, too.
Yeah, and somebody had just asked me about this on Twitter, which is kind of funny. So I used to watch a show called Nightmare Theater, which was out of Milwaukee on WITI TV 6. This was before they became like an affiliate of Fox or something like that. But so every Saturday night, and the time would vary because they would just put it on whatever before it got done. So if what was before it was running late, they didn't care. They slapped Nightmare Theater on after it. So it could be on at midnight. It might be on at 1 o'clock in the morning, might be on at 2 o'clock in the morning, depending on, what's going on. But I'd sit up with my parents and they found it and they introduced me to the show. They said, you got to see this guy named Dr. Cadaverino. And he insults his audience and he talks about how crappy the movies are. And they're like, you got to see this guy. He's unbelievable. So I sat up on a Saturday night with them and watched it. And, I thought it was great. It was hilarious stuff. But, he's like a horror movie host. He had a sidekick named Igor, who was like a big, tall, headless person. So he was a hoot because, he didn't speak. So everything was mimed. And sometimes it was like really hilarious. Like, an infamous streaking episode that I could tell you about. Yeah, I will. But so I would send artwork in to the show for their mailbag, and he started showing my stuff on the show. And he'd get kind of excited, he'd be like, "Oh, we got another one from Mr. TRACY LESCH," and da 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 da. And then I started going by a nom de plume of Baron von Finkenstein and sending him artwork. So then, he asked me to come on the show. And then after that, I did some more appearances with them on the show. But like, I think the first show that I did with them, I think I actually introduced the dungeon game to him, and we were gonna we laid it all out and got it ready to go. And we were like playing off camera, but we'd go there. So I started doing the show. The taping would be on like a Wednesday night. We'd start taping at 7:00, and we'd do as much as we figured we needed, because they only needed so many segments. And then what they would do is 2 weeks later, they would intersperse the segments with a movie, and that was the show. And he had the schedule of what was coming up, so we knew what, if we were going to talk about the movie, we knew what movie it was going to be. But yeah, so we shot like little segments, like maybe 5-7 minute segments that would go in between the commercials and the movie.
Okay, that's cool. So I mean, it's interesting you did the whole run through like that, and shows like that were really the forerunner to Mystery Science Theater 3000. I mean, and they openly admit, because they were out in the Midwest too. So I have no doubt that Joel and all of the other creators that worked on MST3K probably watched you on TV and were like, yeah, we're doing a thing called Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it's based on stuff like that.
Wow.
So I have no doubt in my mind that they probably watched, Dr. Cadaverino, Svengoolie, Elvira, and so many other
No Neck was on Channel 12 in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, they're from Wisconsin. The original MST3K guys were from Wisconsin, so they almost certainly essentially looked at the groundwork you did and cranked it up a notch with a whole meta. We're trapped on a spaceship. Mad scientists make us watch bad movies.
Yeah.
And
it's a great take on it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys, you guys absolutely lay the groundwork for that sort of thing. But the reason I mention that is they followed that same process. They would shoot all of their host segments, just back to back to back to back to back. That might be, a few days of filming, and then they'd come and sit down and they do the joke segments, that they which everybody thinks, oh, it's in the theater and everything. They were all like crammed around a television that was out of sight, so it wouldn't illuminate them too badly when they would chroma key them with the video toaster. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm veering again.
No. It was a very original take that they had, especially with the silhouettes. But yeah, horror film hosts were all over the place at one point. Now it's sort of like a dying breed.
Well, I mean, you're D&D royal, you're D&D pioneer, you're a horror host royalty, and it's awesome that you come and hang out on the show with us. It's always a pleasure to have you here. So
I love it.
So everybody out in the audience, go to Amazon, order yourself a copy of The Paladin Armor of God. Check that out. And Shattermere Comics.
Shattermere.
I did Shattermere, like the horse. Shattermere Comics. Check out Tracy's stuff there. I'm going to have merch rolling in the next couple of days, and you guys can get a piece of Tracy LESCH artwork to wear that supports the show. It helps Tracy because we're split. If you guys are wondering, look, I'm just going to say flat out, this is a split. This is Tracy did the art. It's for my show. It's an even split. So He's getting paid. Fear not. I will see to it that the man gets paid. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Tracy. If you'll hang out in the green room for a few minutes after credits, we'll catch up with some stuff.
Hey, and connect with me on X, folks. You know, you come out, connect with me on
that's right. He is at Tracy Lesh, at Tracy Lesh, or on X, and Tracy Lesh on Facebook. In fact, I will. Let's see. So you can hit him up on X, or just same thing without the at symbol and a space between Tracy and Lesh on Facebook. Thank you again, and thank you for Shelby for working behind the scenes to get us the not just the painting, but the awesome scale of the painting. So thank you to Shelby. Now, guys, again, I will not be here tomorrow night. I'll see if I can find something that perhaps y'all haven't seen, and I'll put that up then.
Gamma World.
We did Gamma World last night. We played Gamma World.
Right.
Last night, so you can go check that out. I will be live streaming with some other folks over on their channel. So until then, everyone, please be good to each other. But remember, you got to keep your eyes peeled for that owl bear. Good night. God bless. Love you all.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Make it as a toad all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.